Welcome to Nice and Blunt. The title of the video says it all. These are my week 1 running back rankings. Let's go. At number 1, I've actually got Dalvin Cook over Christian McCaffrey, and I really just prefer the game script. The defensive matchup doesn't really matter to me, although it is worth noting Cincinnati is a better matchup on the ground. However, if you're playing in DFS, I would go with Dalvin Cook as the number 1 running back. I just think the game is more competitive, and that's why I think Dalvin Cook will be more involved at the end of the game. I think Chuba Hubbard may get a few more looks than Alexander Madison. But at 3, I've got Alvin Kamara. At 4, Derrick Henry. We're not worried about that. At 5, I've got Nick Chubb, and obviously he's my boy. So this is how my draft order was. But also I think that the game script really favors Nick Chubb in this game. I think the only way that you can really try to beat Kansas City is if you pound the rock early and often, establish a lead, and eat as much clock as you can by running the ball, keeping it in bounds. So Nick Chubb is going to get a lot of carries in this game. He might also get some catches, but probably not more than 2, and he is a lock in my lineup. Joe Mixon, I have at number 6, and I really love this matchup as well. Last year, Minnesota was the 6th worst run defense in terms of rush yards allowed per game. They gave up 134 on the ground. And I think Joe Mixon is going to eat up yards in this game. He's going to get more than 20 touches for sure, and I really like Joe Mixon. He's as healthy as he'll be all year, but I don't really think that that's a major concern long term. I really like Joe Mixon in week 1. Another player that's a little bit of a surprise in my top 10 might be James Robinson, and this matchup against Houston just can't be underrated. Houston gave up the most rush yards per game in the NFL last year with over 160 per game. Is going to eat up yards and probably score at least 1 touchdown. I think it's very likely he scores more than 20 fantasy points in this game. At number 8, I can't let him slide too far. I've got Aaron Jones, and it's mainly this matchup that worries me. New Orleans is definitely an elite run defense. They ranked 4th in the league last year in rush yards allowed with only 94 per game. So it's not like this is an easy matchup for Aaron Jones and the Green Bay Packers. I do think it's very likely that he scores a touchdown, however, and he will get some work through the air. So I'm not worried about Aaron Jones outside the top 10. You're definitely going to start him, but I'm just tempering my expectations. This is going to be one of his down weeks. It'll be much better throughout the year. At number 9 is another player who may have a bit of a down week, but I still view as a top 10 running back, Austin Eckler, who's going to get a lot of targets out of the backfield, plenty of receptions. I'm not worried about it, even though Washington's front 7 is scary. It's not like this is an easy matchup, but at the end of the day, I trust Austin Eckler. At number 10, going against Buffalo, I like the game script for Najee Harris. I also like the fact that he was the number 1 overall pick in their draft, for the Pittsburgh Steelers, that is, and they definitely want to prove that that was a wise decision, so they want to give him the rock. And I also think in order to compete with Buffalo, you need to try and eat up clock. It's kind of similar to the Kansas City and Cleveland game. If you're not Kansas City or Buffalo, if you're the opponent, you want to run the ball as much as possible and keep the opponent off the field. So I think Najee Harris is going to get a lot of work. At number 11, I really like Antonio Gibson's prospect. I think he definitely scores a touchdown. The Chargers are not really known for stopping the run. The strength of this defense is the secondary. Joey Bosa is pretty good, but he's more of a pass rusher. At number 12, I actually feel like this was a surprise. I didn't expect Denver to be such a good matchup. The offensive line worries me. However, Saquon is as healthy at the moment as he will be all year. So I think he's a safe bet inside the top 15. I've got him at number 12. At number 13, I can't let him slide too far. It's just so much volume in Indianapolis, and the offensive line is very, very good. So Jonathan Taylor comes in at number 13. Seattle is actually a difficult matchup on the ground. They gave up the 5th fewest rush yards per game, only 95.6 per game last year, so definitely not an easy task for Jonathan Taylor, but I do think he's going to get some touches out of the passing game, and his floor is just so reliable, I can't put him outside the top 15. But at 14, a player I feel really confident in getting a lot of work, who's really good near the goal line. I think he's definitely going to punch in a touchdown. Gus Edwards of the Baltimore Ravens at Las Vegas on Monday night. The fact that it's also prime time is another reason why I like to play a player in that game, and I think Gus Edwards is going to get the most work on the ground. He's the running back I would want in this game. Him and Lamar Jackson are going to eat up a lot of yards. And at number 15, I think it's the player who could easily vault into the top 10. He has a lot of upside. It's Raheem Mostert, who is tentatively the San Francisco 49ers starting running back. I don't think that that's going to last through the end of the season. By Thanksgiving, I think it's definitely going to be Trey Sermon. But the moment Raheem Mostert's healthy, he's paid the most, so he's going to get the most touches in this game. And Detroit is one of the best matchups you can have. Last year, Detroit gave up the 5th most rushing yards per game, 135 per game. And I really don't think they're going to be able to stop Kyle Shanahan. Give me as much of the San Francisco 49ers rushing attack as I can get this week. It's a great matchup for Raheem Mostert. So that's why I have him at 15. At 16 is a player with a shit ton of upside who I think will score a touchdown in this game. It's Clyde Edwards-Helaire, CEH of the Kansas City Chiefs. And because he scored only 3 last year, I think they want him to be confident going into the season. They want to get him a score. And even though Cleveland has a good rushing defense, I don't think that they're going to stop him from getting maybe like 5 catches or so and also into the end zone. So I like CEH's upside. I'm not really worried about this matchup. Another matchup that's supposed to be scary but doesn't really worry me is Damian Harris versus Miami. At home, I think that Bill Belichick's really going to pound the ball. There's going to be a lot of carries. And not only Sony Michel is gone, but Cam Newton is gone. So there's a lot of free rush attempts in this offense. And I think Damian Harris is going to see at least 20 carries in this game. This offensive line is elite. I really like Damian Harris. I kind of want to put him higher, but I think I have to respect Miami's defense and Brian Flores just enough to keep him at 17. At 18 is a player who I really like, but this is a tough matchup. The Colts are an elite defense. Last year, they ranked 2nd in the league in rush yards allowed per game, only 90 per game, so they're a really difficult team to run the ball against. And I think Chris Carson is going to do more damage through the air, catching passes, than he will on the ground. So he's probably going to score a touchdown. However, I don't think that that's a lock, and I only have him at number 18. I'm just a little bit worried about Chris Carson in this matchup. The Colts do scare me, but not as much as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And the Colts ranked 2nd with 90 rushing yards allowed per game. The Bucs ranked 1st in the NFL, and to put into context, they only gave up 80. So a full 10 yards less per game than the 2nd best defense in the league. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are not a team you want to face in fantasy football if you have the opponent's running back. So Zeke is going to have a really rough week 1. I'm not excited to start him, but you draft him in the 1st round. The volume is still high. He's still in the top 20, but I don't feel good about it at all. At least there will be some garbage time to save his day. And then at number 20 in this game is Leonard Fournette. And I kind of want to put him even higher, but I still think Ronald Jones is very much involved and is going to steal a lot of touches. Last year they gave up 158 rushing yards per game, and I don't think Micah Parsons is going to help that much. He will get a lot of tackles, but I don't think it's going to be for loss. I think that Rojo and Lenny are going to eat up a lot of yards. I'm actually going to put Leonard Fournette above Ezekiel Elliott. If I had to pick between the two, I would actually prefer Fournette in this game. I think he's going to catch a decent amount of passes. Good floor play with high upside in this shootout, at least for the Tampa Bay Bucs. And these are the running backs I would feel confident starting this week. The top 20 that I feel kind of have to be in your lineup, even though there's a few who I'm a little concerned about. I'd rather not start Zeke if I had at least 2 of these names above him, but odds are you're going to have to start him. Hopefully it doesn't cost you. And I know that there's like 24 technically running back 2s in a 12-man league, but really once I think you hit running back 21, everyone's a flex play. Some have more upside than others. I would like to start with Myles Gaskin, who surprisingly has an amazing matchup against the New England defense, and they actually gave up the 7th most rush yards per game last year. Now look, they have a lot of opt-ins that are coming back, but I do think that the strength of this team is the secondary, and I think that Tua is really going to be limited, that they're going to want to run the ball a lot. Myles Gaskin is definitely going to get the most touches, and I think he has the best shot at scoring a touchdown of all the names coming after him, and that's why I have him as my running back 21. I like Myles Gaskin a decent amount this week, but he is still a flex play with upside in my mind. At 22 is Mike Davis, who I think is going to get a decent amount of targets out of the backfield, and I think he's going to have a lot of scoring potential in this game against Philly. However, I don't think that his yardage total is going to be that high. I think it's unlikely he gets more than like 70 yards from scrimmage. But I think he's a good floor play, and I like him as my running back 22 this week. I would definitely consider Mike Davis at the flex. Michael Carter comes in right after him, and I kind of want to put him higher. The Carolina run defense is not scary at all. But at the end of the day, I just don't really know what to expect from the Jets. So I can't put him in the starting top 20 just yet. But I kind of want to. I really like this matchup. I think he's going to pay off as a good start this week. I like Michael Carter quite a bit. But it's really just this matchup. I don't really like him that much long term. And then at 24, the first backup is Kareem Hunt. And similar to how I explained Nick Chubb, they're definitely going to have a lot of run plays in this game. They want to eat up as much clock as possible. I think Kareem Hunt is also a pretty good lock to score a touchdown, and I like him quite a bit as my running back 24. Still a flex play, though. I wouldn't put him over any of those top 20 guys. So I like Kareem Hunt's upside quite a bit, but I still don't really view him as a starter. He's just more of a flex play. The only guy who is going to get a much bigger workload than him, who I view as a worse starting option, is actually David Montgomery of the Bears at the Rams on Sunday night. Andy Dalton is not going to be able to move the ball. The last time these two teams played, it was Week 7 in 2020, and the Bears only put up 10 points with Nick Foles. I don't think they're going to top that mark. I think it's going to be very difficult for them to score 11 or more points this game. So I really don't like the outlook for David Montgomery and the rest of the Bears. Hopefully Justin Fields becomes the starting quarterback as early as next week. Things are going to look a lot better next week. They have Cincinnati, if I'm not mistaken. But Week 1 is a big fade for the Chicago offense. I would much rather bench David Montgomery than start him. But his workload is so big, I don't blame you if you feel compelled to. But I kind of want to start this next guy more than him. Trey Sermon at Detroit, I think, is still going to be very involved. They want to see what they have. And it's not like Detroit is going to be able to stop anybody on the ground in this game. Trey Sermon has a lot of upside. I love this matchup. I kind of want to put him. I'm going to do it. I would rather start Trey Sermon over David Montgomery. Give me Sermon as my running back 25. At 27, another matchup-driven selection, and it's Phillip Lindsay, who I think is going to be a good floor play at the flex if you don't have one of the names above him. And Jacksonville is really bad at defending the run. Last year, they were the third worst defense in terms of rush yards allowed per game, 153 per game. So I think Phillip Lindsay, as the starting running back listed on the depth chart, is going to have a very good game. A couple players I'm fading. Miles Sanders at Atlanta, not a good matchup. Same goes for Josh Jacobs. These are two tough run defenses. Atlanta, it's more so because they're secondary is just so bad. With Baltimore, it's a lot more legit, so I'm not excited about either player in these committees. And then at 30, I'm interested in Darrell Henderson a little bit more than Sony Michel this week. I think, at least for the first month, he's going to have a little bit more volume, but I think that role is quickly going to fade as Sony Michel gets more acclimated to this playbook. But at least for Week 1, unfortunately, it's a bad matchup. Chicago is a really good defense, especially against the run, so I don't really like the prospects here that much. But I still view him as like a top 30 guy. I'm not too crazy about starting him, though. Chase Edmonds, it's really like I'm not excited to start him, but there's not really a reason why I can say don't start him. I just think if there's one score on the ground that happens in this game for the Arizona Cardinals, it's going to come from Kyler Murray, not Chase Edmonds. Two players who I really like for the rest of the year but have really bad matchups this week, so I'm fading Javonte Williams at the Giants and Zach Moss against Pittsburgh. Some really tough defenses when it comes to running the ball, so I'm not excited about either player, so I'd fade them. And Ronald Jones comes in at 34, who I think I might be sleeping on a little bit. Yeah, I'd bump him up, actually. I'd start him not that high, just above these two. Yeah, this matchup is really good. He's not going to catch that many passes, so he's limited in that regard, but he could very easily break a 70-yard run for a touchdown. I wouldn't bet on it, though. I'd rather start Leonard Fournette. Sony Michel is definitely interesting. I think they want to see what they got. in this trade. DeAndre Swift is a player I would not start at all, almost in any circumstance. I'm not really crazy about his floor. He's been nursing a groin injury, and this is a really tough matchup. The San Francisco 49ers ranked 7th in the league last year in terms of run yards allowed per game last year, so this is not a good matchup, and the game script is not going to favor DeAndre Swift. He'll probably catch a few targets, but I'm really worried about it. This is a must bench, if you will. If there's a player I didn't touch on that you have a question about, go ahead and leave me a comment down below. If you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor, like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I appreciate it. My name is Adam Riancho, and thank you for watching Nice and Blunt.